This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self. Hey everyone, it's Rosie. I am super excited to have my dear friend, Rana DeBoer, co-founder of Volt Strategy, launch a new series on the podcast called Elevate Your Leadership. In this series, Rana offers a unique blend of behavioral science and business strategy to help leaders take their cultures to the next level and build future-ready organizations. Take a listen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elevate Your Leadership, a small but mighty podcast where people just like you tune in to pick up tips, tactics, and insights on how to really level up your own leadership. And of course, to level up that performance of your team. So for those who don't know me, my name is Rana DeBoer. I am a serious but very fun human performance junkie. So my career passion is truly helping people reach their full potential, which includes helping organizations get that people part right in their business. So that means that we both align and empower people directly into your business strategy. And in that case, everyone wins. Your people win who are doing fulfilling work. Your business wins. Your people are powered up. Who doesn't need a good win these days, right? Everybody could use a good win. So today I am super excited to explore with you this vital role, I'll call it, consequences in leadership. So it's really about the power of consequences and how they can be used to encourage accountability, and then to give you some ideas and perspectives on how to use consequences effectively. Who doesn't love a good consequence, right? It's all in our perspective of consequences. Are they good or are they bad? Let's talk about that. So if you've been following along, you know that this podcast really started out with a real internal focus where we were looking at how is our internal core of our leadership really being effective, meaningful, purpose-driven, right? What's our intent, our influence, and our impact, and how that circle of influence really helps you build an outward effectiveness, because we definitely know everything begins and ends with leadership. So now we're continuing to expand that circle, right? Focusing on how you lead your team and your culture to their best. So let's get to it. So when we think about all of, these tools for effective leadership, we've got situational leadership, emotional intelligence, conversational intelligence. We've got the Eisenhower matrix to help us make good decisions, right? We have all of these tools to be effective in our management and in our leadership. And so one that is really overlooked that I'm real excited to talk to you about and help you kind of get your arms around and then be able to put into use is called consequential management. So the thing is, it sounds a little sterile and it sounds a little bad, like consequential management, dun. But it's completely overlooked because it really holds this powerful key to cultivating a positive work environment and really helping to ensure that our teams are running efficiently, effectively. So let's first take a look at kind of the history of consequential management just for a couple seconds and how it can foster really healthy teams. And then we'll get into those great tips for action like we always do. So consequential management, or the power of consequences, is really rooted in behaviorism, that psychological theory that emphasizes the importance of two things. One is the reinforcement, and two is the importance of consequences in shaping behavior. Now, I know many of you are thinking, Rana, right? But the purpose of a podcast like this is to help bring some of those basics back into our practice and then adding some richness to it so that you can really cultivate some great management practices. So if you have not heard of B.F. Skinner, super encourage you to look him up. So I really got introduced to him when I started to take on the work of safety, right? So I'm not your OSHA gal, but I'm absolutely your culture of safety gal. So someone who helps, pull safety teams together to be very cohesive and united in their goals, and then to really build that behavioral and physical environment for safety. So B.F. Skinner is where I first really learned about him. Renowned psychologist, mid-20th century, and really just proposed that behavior can be modified through, right, 1, positive, and 2, negative reinforcements. Again, yeah, we know that. But let's put it together. Let's really put this together for just a few moments. So statistics. If we think about the power of consequences when it comes to accountability and performance, we all know Gallup. Teams with high accountability experience a 28% improvement in performance metrics. Boom. All around the power of consequences, accountability now starts to come into our discussion today. Another study by Gallup. Teams with managers who provided consistent feedback, both the positive and the negative, showed 12.5% increase in productivity compared to those that don't. And again, we're talking about things that you kind of know, but we're putting some puzzle pieces together here to gain bigger perspective. Employee retention. Research will show indicates clear accountability structures reduce employee turnover by 25%. And then organizational success. Harvard Business Review. Companies with strong management practices, including consequential management, are 1.5 times more likely to outperform their peers financially. Okay, so if those aren't enough statistics to help kind of put our arms around this power of consequences, I don't know what is. So the proof is there, right? The proof is there, but how do we do it? So how do we put this into practice? Because what do we know? Leadership, like medicine or law, is a practice. So we have to put things into practice. So at the end of the day, the power of consequences is really about creating and then emphasizing environments that encourage desirable behaviors while discouraging those undesirable ones. So let's do a couple quick examples. Who remembers back in the whole workplace wellness boom when we started decorating the stairwells like art galleries? Do you remember that? And the whole purpose behind it was to encourage physical activity. The idea was, don't take the elevator, take the stairs. And to do that, we'll decorate them and make them pretty and appealing. And it'll be almost like a social gathering place. Well, the cascade effects of that were also equally positive. We brought art and the cultures into our work environment. We brought more color. We brought this idea of creating spaces where we could hold shared values, that we value physical activity, right? Or, love this, maybe you are one of those companies that I get to work with a lot that's embracing the physical built environment, which means that we are doing some creative and very deliberate design. For example, creating landing spots, open landing spots in open spaces with very comfortable chairs, really great tools like our whiteboards that will roll into different spaces so that we can sit and collaborate and do strategic thinking and ideation together, right? That's about creating and emphasizing an environment that encourages the desirable behavior. Wild one, you ready for this? Hold on to your hats. I've got a manager that I coach who has created the bitchin' hour. Yep. And once a month, you can go in, talk to him about anything that's on your mind, something that's bugging you, or maybe it's a crazy idea that you have, anything under the sun. But talk about creating and emphasizing an environment that encourages openness, trust, ideation, reduces fear, right? Versus holding back, not saying anything, writing something bugging you. So again, as we go through those examples, if you think about, they're all encouraging the desirable behavior and at the same time discouraging undesirable ones. Okay, so let's quickly take a look at 2 types of consequences, right? The first is natural consequences. So as a manager or leader of people, sometimes we need to just let people fail, right? When the risk or the stakes are low enough that we can let a team member fail, sometimes we need to. Maybe you've got an employee who fails to meet a project deadline. So that natural consequence might be an increased workload for that person. It may cause a little bit of damage to the team's reputation because you're not pulling it through, but maybe that risk is okay. And so as a leader, we allow those natural consequences to unfold without us swooping in to micromanage or give an intervention. We let people learn from their mistakes, and then we become their best coach to talk to them about what went wrong, what do you think you can do, and what help do you need from me? 3 powerful questions, right? On the other hand, there are logical consequences, and this requires some thought, right? We create these logical consequences. So that's when we need to step in. So if we've got a team member repeatedly missing meetings, that logical consequence might be pulling them back from the project until they can demonstrate their level of commitment. A couple more examples to this logical consequence, right? Just to keep it in perspective. How about hiring? Where we hire new team members, we want to make sure that we properly vet that person before making the decision. What's the consequence of a bad hire? I know you're just filling in the blank with a bunch of things right there. I won't need to answer that question, actually. Maybe it is the consequences of delegating tasks. Effective consequences here is really about those clear expectations and deadlines. So if a team member fails to meet them, what's the consequence? We might need to get them to additional training. We're going to need to maybe have a couple hard conversations. Maybe we need to help them with their delegation skills, which also goes along with defining expectations for ourselves. That's another great consequence. Are we holding ourselves accountable for setting those clear expectations for our team members? Because if we're vague or ambiguous, that just leads to confusion, frustration, and our team starts to miss goals. So those are some great examples. Hopefully that kind of helps you start to sort of turn or flip the switch on the power of consequences. Because here's the main idea. We need to talk about consequences more. At the end of the day, accountability, which we started to talk about a couple of minutes ago, is woven into every aspect of our leadership. So accountability is not about blame. Consequences is not about blame. It's about improvement. So if we can embrace consequences as a non-threatening, right? Like non-threatening, but rather performance-enhancing tool, our people start to follow suit because they feel that from us. It changes the way we talk about consequences, and it changes the way that we're able to lean into conflict. So if you remember believe, behave, become from previous episodes, boom, same thing applies here. This is exactly what I meant by believe, behave, become. So when you put meaning to those words, you can put them into action for betterment. So here's what I mean. Natural and logical consequences really allow individuals to understand the impact of their actions. It's all about being able to hold up that mirror to see how are the behaviors and actions I'm taking impacting others in the work and the organization. And then here's the beauty. We get to make adjustments accordingly. So why is it important? Fairness and equity. Number one, if we consistently apply consequences, it makes sure that everyone is treated fairly. And we all know when employees feel that they're being treated justly, trust and morale through the roof, right? Clarity and predictability. Nobody likes the guessing game. So, gang, when consequences, both positive and negative, are clearly defined, it just eliminates confusion. And people know what's expected and they can anticipate and predict and then therefore perform better. And of course, accountability promotes responsibility. It can have a empowering accountability to it. So unfortunately, we sometimes think of accountability or consequences as punishment. So we need to live with the consequences of our actions. Time out on that, right? Everything we've talked about today is about thinking bigger than that. It's not about punishment. It's about learning from our actions. because we know that every action has a consequence, big and little, good and bad, public or unseen. You could really say that we as humans are just a bunch of effect machines going around causing things to happen. And by the way, fun fact, the Sanskrit word for karma in its most unnuanced form actually means effect. There you have it. So sometimes we do it all on purpose, sometimes it's by accident, but we always have an effect on the world and the people around us. Well, let's wrap this up. Quick tips to harness the power of consequences. Number 1, ask yourself and your people, what are the consequences of this decision? For example, I've got this super high executing senior leadership team that I work with. It is so easy for them to make quick decisions without regarding how that decision will affect their team. So the teams are complaining about moving too fast, frustrated because a decision was changed, but no one told them about it. So the question after every more significant senior leadership team decision is, let's talk about how this will affect our team. Well, courageous leadership at its best, all through the power of a simple question and understanding that for every action, there is a consequence. Set those clear expectations. Need I say more? I don't think so. Number 3, be consistent. Inconsistency applied to consequences can lead to feelings of favoritism or bias, right? So be mature enough to check your actions in this space, which means that you believe in equity for all. And if that's difficult or something that you need to unpack for yourself, take a class or get a coach, because consistency is huge. Number 4, provide timely feedback. Man, is this then a popular topic, right? Address both the positive and negative as they occur. So immediate feedback reinforces the desired behavior and offers this beautiful chance for communication while everything is fresh and relevant. One last quick tip on why the power of consequences is so important today. Listen sharp. In times of change and uncertainty, employees need an anchor to orientate themselves. And that's you. You can provide that consistent and stable guidance despite the, quite honestly, what feels like a tornado of constant change. Now, what I'm not saying is that you need to be rigidly, adhere to these old ways of doing things, but rather that the overarching values and goals remain constant, even if the paths to achieving them shift or change. One last thing to hit on. It's also fundamental for you, right? As a leader, it's almost as though consequence in self-management is a virtue. So leaders who manage to stay true in their own values and goals will not only be more successful, but also more satisfied in your roles, because we are truly acting through the filter of our core beliefs. We truly and consciously understand the impact of our actions. And that means the consequences of our actions. So what did we learn today? Consequences are a good thing. We need to see that, and we need to believe that for it to take effect. So consequences are actually a good thing. It's where we learn from. It's how we learn. They also help people and teams hold themselves accountable, right? And really help people focus on achieving their goals together. So it's that empowering reinforcement. And they provide us as leaders with a level of consciousness we need to be more authentic, to be effective, and fulfilled in our leadership. So I can't wait to catch you in December. We're going to talk about the art of conversations and coaching with what I'm calling magical phrases. Because who doesn't need some magic these days? We need wins and we need magic. Yes, to both, please. So thanks so much for listening in and taking the time to invest in yourself and your team and your culture. So I encourage you to look back at previous episodes, catch up to where we are today, and don't forget to grab your leader guide from this and all the other episodes, which provides you with an incredibly powerful consequence as an indispensable leadership principle assessment. Now, does that sound sexy or what? Right? Who doesn't want to go grab that right off the shelf? I'm telling you, this is a can't miss leader guide, Peak Leader Guide. Absolutely. So jump out, find me on LinkedIn, or visit our website at boltstrategy.com/resources. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great month here and keep leading to your peak, friends.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.